All in Sports Network. We love sports.
The eyes of Texas are upon you.
Looks
The
like
University of
it's
Texas.
about 6:14 p.m. right now.
And Oklahoma still sucks.
The University of Texas with a season-saving win over the Oklahoma Sooners. They take home the Golden Hat 23-6. It has been 2 straight years. Jake, what's the actual number on that one?
The number since OU has scored a touchdown?
That is correct.
735 days since
It
Oklahoma
has
scored a
been
touchdown.
735 days, and it'll also be an additional 365 before they have a chance to
This
score
will
enough.
get over 1,000 before. I just got to say that because we know OU fans can't do math very well. So
Yes.
it will get to over 1,000 days before OU can score a touchdown against Texas unless they meet in the SEC championship game or playoffs.
Correct. And again, this is a potentially season-saving win for the University of Texas. Jake and I were major doubters going into this game. Texas proved everybody wrong except for maybe Josh Pate. He was the only one that I saw actually pick them to win this game. But a 23-6 victory. And Jake, this is a game that has made Texas legends in the past. Arch Manning, game of the season. Trey Wisner, game of the season. Colin Simmons, game of the season. Offensive line, game of the season. Everybody who needed to step up and play stepped up and played their best game of the season so far. This team hasn't looked this good all year long. Now, did I think Oklahoma was the number 6 team in the country? Probably not. But with that being said, a top 10 victory as an unranked opponent with only 2 losses on your schedule and plenty of time to make up for it. A 2-loss Texas team with wins over Oklahoma, Georgia, and Texas A&M will definitely make the college football playoffs. The season's not over. There's still a lot of uphill climbing yet to do for the Texas Longhorns. But Jake, what a game. What a game. What a game.
Yeah, I mean, well, and I would say half of the season for the offensive line. The first half was still putrid from the offensive line, but they did get better as the game went on. There was movement against a very good front, especially in that second half. And Arch had time to throw. Also, Arch did a really good job of buying time. Arch was still not perfect. He still got to work at just processing things a little bit quicker.
His second half, it felt like something kind of like he read something for what Oklahoma was doing in the first half. He adjusted to it, and he made perfect adjustments to make it work in the second half.
He just keeps getting better. I mean, he looked better in the Florida game, despite the fact that national media wasn't making it sound like it. And then he looked better this week. And the offense still wasn't great. They only put up, 16 points as an offense.
The offense only scored 1 touchdown.
But with that said, hey, that'd be a lot for OU. But they still, outgained OU pretty heavily in this game. They outran OU, and Wisner looked really good. The return of Wisner in this game, very much. He made guys miss.
If you go back to last year, his coming out party also against Oklahoma, and he ended up having a 1,000-yard season out of it.
Yeah, and so I obviously picked OU to win this game in a blowout. It was a little exaggerative on my score, but it was the frustration of just, I got to see something before I can believe.
We both chose Texas to lose this game.
And I still believe Texas has issues, but this game shows that the culture is still intact and that the Texas fight is still very much there. We don't have to question that. We don't have to worry about that. That doesn't mean they're going to make the playoffs this year. But what that means is this team is still a team that has pride, that has culture, and that will fight, and isn't going to go down without swinging. Because at the end of the day, they're 4-2 with 2 1-possession losses on the road. at two of the harder places to play in the country, just from an environment perspective. Obviously,
Sure.
Florida, by the way, already has driven down and scored on A&M. We don't know what that game will turn out to be, but maybe Florida's just found something. And so, but yeah, what a second half by Texas, man. 20-0. The way that offense came out from halftime and had the drive of the year after having a pretty poor first half, though they were finding something in the first half, but then they would commit a penalty. And this offense just isn't going to do well from 1st and 20.
Jake,
They're just not.
If we see this team play the way they did in the second half for the majority of the rest of the season, I like Texas's chances to end the season with a relatively successful feeling. Maybe a loss to Georgia, but really winning the majority of their games following this performance. If we see a repeat performance, a consistent performance from what we saw in the second half for the remainder of this year, whether that be defensively, whether that be from the offense and penalties, shooting yourself in the foot, making plays, special teams, all of that. If that all comes together like we saw in the second half of this game, Jake, Texas can make some noise. They can make some noise.
Yeah, I mean, they can beat anyone on any given Saturday. Look how good Ohio State looks still. And Texas very much could have won that game. They can beat anyone. They have deficiencies, but they overcame those deficiencies in this game. I thought Sark called a great second half.
Yeah.
The first half, people were getting frustrated at screens. And when you're behind the chains, and people have been complaining about not enough screens and not enough underneath stuff. Part of the reason some of the underneath stuff isn't happening is that's what Arch just doesn't see right now. That's where he's got to continue to improve. He missed a touchdown. I saw complaining about that red zone calling on the goal line. There's a wide open touchdown on the second play, but it's a tight window. But guess what? When you're playing a defense like OU, windows are tight. That said, Arch still played a really good game. He bought time. He used his legs. He waved goodbye to the entire shitty state of Oklahoma at the end of the game. Awesome scene to watch that.
A lot of them, which were haters going into this game, saying Arch sucks, Arch is overrated, this, that, and the other. And he just took the opportunity to say, bye-bye, haters. Enjoy your ride home.
Which, funny you mentioned Josh Pate, being one of the few who predicted Texas to win this game. He just tweeted out, Sark himself does not know this Texas team better than me.
Dude, he's undefeated. He's undefeated picking Texas games.
Yeah, I can't remember if he picked Ohio State or Texas. I think he picked Ohio State. Yeah. I know he picked Florida, which Texas fans got very upset about.
Which was a completely valid pick, by the way.
Yeah, a very valid pick. And then obviously he picked Texas this week, which maybe I just need to start telling off his predictions, because my predictions for this Texas team have been very poor.
Yeah. One thing that I know of for a fact, Jake, and Texas A&M just tied it up again. One thing I know for a fact is fandom can very much blur the lines of knowing your team as well as you should know them. Maybe we have dove too deep into the trusting of the players, the recruiting, the hype, this, that, and the other. And whenever you can kind of zoom out and give an outside perspective, you get a little bit more insight. But that's part of being a fan, is having some of those absurd, ridiculous, emotional feelings and takes on a team, other than just having a podcast where you're not really a fan and you're just kind of, just unbiasedly putting your predictions into this team. That's something you and I are unable to do. And so, yeah, some frustrations built up. And guess what? If it means Texas is going to come out and win every game, I'll pick them to lose from here on out. I really don't care what my reputation is, as long as it results to wins on the field. And so we saw an excellent game tonight, Jake, from Arch Manning, from Trey Wisner. Arch Manning went 21 of 27. He came into this game last place in completion percentage in the SEC within the conference. 21 of 27, really just managed the game extremely well. I thought he just made the reads he needed to make. Nothing was real splashy. Nothing was really just, kill shots down the field. Now, there was that play on the goal line where he escaped the pocket and fitted in between two defenders to Parker Livingstone on the sideline, toe tapped it. By the way, did you know that they're roommates? And it was completed for a first down on like 3rd and 10 on the goal line. That ended up resulting in a field goal that drive. And that was just a huge moment in the game.
Yeah, and backed up. I mean, at minimum, you don't score that possession; you flip field position and better. And Niblet, after I was ready to send him off the team after he didn't field that punt early on.
Yep.
If I'm another team, I'm just rugby style punting at Niblet every time, because when he does field it, he can be dangerous. He's had good returns this year. But if the ball's short, he's not fielding it. But he made up for it. That is, we talk about Red River. There's always a special teams play. There's always something that happens
a funky play
that either is the nail in the coffin or is the momentum changer. That was both. OU was getting some momentum back. Offense going to get the ball back up 7. But obviously had failed to had missed a couple long field goals to really put this game away, which, by the way, Sark electing to kick field goals in this game. He is not being as aggressive on 4th down. I think it's because he knows this offense. It's just the percentages are less likely to get a 4th and 4. I mean, I didn't want to go for it on a 4th and 4 against this OU defense, and when you have a chance to go up a couple possessions, and paid off kind of. You missed a couple field goals, but they were long field goals.
Yeah.
They were long field goals. Not mad at Shipley for those. Though the second one was just weird because the first one, the 55-yarder, that thing had distance to be good from 62 if it was just a little bit more accurate. And then he misses a 50. It was like 55 or 56, just like 10 yards short.
I know.
Which was weird, but.
When I was like, oh, it's good. He made it.
Yeah,
like,
the whole
I was
time.
like, and then I realized it hit the ground at the 1 yard line. It was like, didn't even make it to the end zone. I was like, oh, he was like really short on that. I wasn't even close. So, but yeah, no, kicker has been a little bit of an Achilles heel for Texas over the last 2 seasons, especially with Burt Auburn's season last year. I'm not going to, obviously Texas wins this game. They win it by multiple possessions. So I'm not going to like fault Mason Shipley by any means. But something to be wary of in the future. If we need a game-winning field goal from 50 plus, be like, okay, it's either going to doink or it's going to be 10 yards short. But no, he has proven that he's a pretty reliable kicker, at least with inside 50 yards. At the college level, anything outside of 50.
I think he can still make from plus 50. I would.
We saw the leg there.
Yeah. He's got a good leg. He did his job in this game. I mean, he could have put the game away a little earlier, but it's no harm, no foul. I do have a question for you though. It's not the Red River Shootout anymore. Is OU to blame for that? When you can't score a touchdown for 3 years, I don't think you can call it a shootout.
Yeah. No, I think it's
just random thoughts going through my brain.
No, I think it's the woke culture of Oklahoma. I think the Oklahoma Sooner woke fan base just doesn't like the word shoot. And so they also don't like the word out. And so then that results in them not scoring points and hurting the feelings of the opponent and just trying to play a fair game. But yeah, no, I think, if it's going to be Red River rivalry and Texas is going to dominate the series, then, let's continue on that track. But yeah, Oklahoma not being able to score a touchdown in what will be about 1,000 days, a little over 1,000 days, is just beautiful. Just chef's kiss.
And Sark now 3-2 against Oklahoma, 3-1 against Brent Venables.
Yep.
That one
Jake,
loss.
what does this do for Brent Venables' Oklahoma future?
I mean, it makes it to where the rest of their schedule, I think, is graded as the hardest schedule in the country from here on out. Though I'd be curious to see if that's changed just with like a South Carolina not being as good.
Yeah, they still have Tennessee. They still have Alabama. They still have LSU. They still have a pretty good gauntlet ahead of them.
But I think at the very least, I mean, his seat is just. I think his seat had gotten a little less hot going into this game, and now it's probably warm again.
It's probably back to where it was, but it does determine whether or not the rest of their seat, how the rest of their.
But OU's got a lot. I talked to a family friend earlier this morning who's very involved with the OU program, and OU's got to look for a new AD right now. And so I think Venables might be safe for another year just because of all the other stuff going on with OU athletics right now. And I don't think OU's exactly in a spot to probably pay much of a buyout. And they just extended him like a year or two ago, and gave him a pay raise,
which was a wild move. Oh, speaking of wild moves, Jake, end of the half, going into halftime, Oklahoma in field goal range. All they have to do is basically just kick the field goal, take it into half. They call a timeout with 10 seconds left. They try to throw another play. Mateer's decision to just first off, the decision for Venables to just go out there and run another play and call a timeout with 10 seconds left when you had about 15 to work.
They
with.
had on like second down, and they kicked it, or sorry, they threw the pick on third down. There was 55 seconds left with a timeout,
and
it was going to be a long field goal. That not only the just not kicking the field goal once you already messed up the time management, but the mess up the time management was they had enough time. They should have been trying to score a touchdown.
Right. And so then not only that, so then they kind of screw up that part. Then they come back out on third down with 10 seconds left. And not only did they decide to throw the ball, well, I guess you kind of have to throw the ball there, but Mateer makes the decision as the quarterback to throw into double coverage in the back of the end zone. It gets picked off. Texas gets the ball to start, goes down the field, scores.
Takes up about half the quarter.
And the best drive of the season for Texas following that, coming out of the halftime break, that moment, that stretch of football where that changed the game. That was huge. And that was just a bonehead decision for both the head coach and the quarterback. Mateer didn't have to do that. The fact that he threw that, and Manny Muhammad getting double the amount of interceptions in this game than he has his entire career at Texas.
You felt like it was going to come this year. He's been really good this year. And the picks, he just had been getting thrown at. Finally got thrown at, and he got picked. And Mateer could have had about 6 or 7 picks in this game, and I'm not exaggerating.
No.
Including a pick 6. If Johnny McDonald had a kind of a rough game, to be honest. A penalty, overran a ball on a pursuit. I saw him miss a couple tackles.
Mateer throws it 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage, incomplete. It goes down the sideline, and Michael Taft, I don't want him recovering fumbles anymore. I just am going to ban him from trying to recover fumbles. He steps out of bounds, tries to recover it. It ends up being Oklahoma ball. Doesn't change the game by any means, but just, between last week and this week, Michael Taft having a rough go at it, trying to pick up a football off the ground.
Yeah, this one is a little, the ball was kind of rolling towards out of bounds. He's just desperately trying to save it. But after what happened last week, not an ideal timing for that type of play to happen. Yeah. This was definitely different than last week, where he just kind of lost his footing and almost had a brain fart. But the defense as a whole, obviously, this was the exact performance they needed.
Colin Simmons and Brad Spence dominated.
I was very disappointed in the defense last week, even more than the offense. And I felt like I was the only one.
Tackles played really, really well.
Yeah, Canoe had a big game. It felt like he was always in on something.
Rod Watson had a couple of big stops in the run game.
And the only time Mateer had time to throw was where it was essentially by design, where they were dropping, they were only sending 3. They had 1 spy, and then they had everyone else in coverage. And I thought PK did a good job of adjusting in game. Once he realized that OU just wasn't going to take shots down the field much, whether that be because of Mateer's thumb or whatever it was. They really started pressing and sending more exotic blitzes and showing different looks, doing a lot of disguising, sending delayed blitzes. The playbook was wide open for the defense this game. It was a much more aggressive game plan. The exact game you needed from the defense, because while the offense played one of their better games of the year when you consider the level of competition they were playing against, not turning the ball over, cooling it on the penalties in the second half. The defense also played their best game of the year in a game where you had to have them play their best.
No, yeah, and they did. They played really, really well. And I thought the offensive line, Jake, I know there were moments where they didn't play great, but Jake, compared to what we've seen this
second half was
line,
good. The second half was very good.
It was their best performance of the season by far. So Kudos to
Nick
the
Brooks
offensive
settled
line.
in too. Nick Brooks had himself a good second half. I
He
saw him get a few
He
pancakes.
was one of the worst football players I've ever seen take a football field and wear football pads in the first half. And like you said, he did end up settling in. So
He is
kudos
to
the
be
freshman.
fair, he is a true freshman making his first start in a Red River game.
Yeah.
But it was better than Connor Stroh.
And that's the sad part.
Without a doubt. And that's the bad
sad
part is that's what you got to rely on. But the good news is I think Nick Brooks is going to develop into a very good offensive lineman. He may not be this year, but he will be a very good offensive lineman when it's all said and done.
Christian Clark also, I think reps were just he's playing himself out of playing time. When he's on the field, he's completely lost. He has no idea what he's doing.
This is one of those deals where he just needs another year to try to get his speed back. I mean, he doesn't look confident.
It's not even just running the ball. It's everything else. It's blocking. It's going out on routes. It's whenever the play breaks down and Arch is trying to scramble.
I mean, Simon was getting carries in this game. I think that's kind of who because they can't trust Gibson. I mean, apparently Gibson has fumble issues in practice and he's fumbled in games. If you can't rely on a guy not to fumble, he can't be in the game, especially against OU. I saw some people going, why isn't Gibson in the red zone? Why? Because if you can't trust him to hold on to the ball, you sure as hell can't play him in a game where turnovers, especially in the red zone, can wildly swing the football game. They leaned on Wisner, and they need Wisner to stay healthy because Wisner is by far the best option. He reaffirmed that today. Obviously, hopefully you get Baxter back. If you get Baxter back and he can be healthy and stay healthy, which is asking for a lot because unfortunately, it just hasn't happened for him. All of a sudden the RB room could be a little better. And maybe this offense, again, it's just baby steps. They weren't perfect today. There's still a lot to clean up. Sarkisian would be the first to tell you that. But this was they got better as the game went on against Florida. They struggled in the first half in this game at times, but when they weren't getting themselves behind the chains, they moved the ball fairly consistently in this game.
Well, and here's my thing, Jake. The running game for Texas dramatically improved from a week ago to this week. He had 35 carries, so stuck with the run, but had 136 yards rushing, no rushing touchdowns. But you had Trey Wisner carrying it 22 times, averaging for 4 yards per carry. Arch Manning carried it 4 times. He had the second most amount of carries with 34 yards. And then James Simon was third on that in terms of running back. He was RB2. With five yards. But then even the chunk yardage that you were able to get by averaging 3.9 yards per carry, you were able to get chunk yardage through the air as well. DeAndre Moore, his long, 24. Ryan Wingo, his long, 14. Trey Wisner's long, 19. Parker Livingstone's long, 21. Jordan Washington, he had a 13-yard reception. So whenever you get some of those chunk yardage plays that Texas seems to have been lacking for the better part of this season, and you get that many chances to get down the field throughout this game against a defense like Oklahoma, and you can stay on the field when you're converting 3rd and 5, when you're converting 3rd and 8, when you're converting 3rd and 9. I mean, that's crucial to a team's success. And we saw a lot of that today from Arch Manning in terms of those clutch moments, those big time moments when you need to get 8 or 9 yards. This team found 9, 10, 11 yards out of those situations.
Yeah, and they found chunks in the run game. Wisner, 37-yard run, finally had a long running back run. Arch Manning, the 29-yard run, the waving goodbye to the crowd. They found some consistent running, especially in that second half. I mean, they were running the ball a lot on those drives where they did well. And sometimes football really is that simple. Sometimes as an offensive lineman, we said it going into the week, you got to sack up. They sacked up.
Yeah.
That drive out of halftime was a culture drive for not only the offense, but specifically for the offensive line. They were challenged in that halftime locker room. I can guarantee you that. They answered the call. And that, to me, tells me everything I need to know. And regardless of how the rest of the season goes, that this Texas program is still just fine long term. I don't know how they're going to do this season. I don't know if they're going to lose, 2 more games, if they're going to lose 0 more games, if they're going to lose 4 more. I don't know. But what I do know is that this Texas program still has the culture, still has the fight. And they showed that because this was the first time we've seen a Sarkisian team with their backs against the wall. Really in a season where they're expected to be good, this is the first time we've ever seen it.
Right. Yeah,
And
this
and they
type
were
of
and that's
adversity,
how they responded.
we've seen them overcome in-game adversities. We have yet to see a season on the line type game adversity and them come out with this type of fight, this type of, I don't know, lack of a better word, pissed offness. Coming out of the tunnel, they were John with Oklahoma. It's only one tunnel out there. You can only come in and come out one way. And they stayed right there, and they wanted to meet Oklahoma, and they wanted to make sure that they're going to defend their turf at the Cotton Bowl, and that's exactly what they did. This team played with a lot of pride today, pride that I hadn't seen previously in the last 5 weeks, and so it was nice to really see this team answer the call. Where I said that they didn't answer the call, they let it go to voicemail last week. They answered it this week, and they let Oklahoma hear about it.
Yeah, and now we can get at least a week of happiness and kind of a deep breath. A very much needed deep breath for us as someone who has to do a podcast over this team, and just with the comments and everything that was going on, and just the social media, everyone just gets to take a deep breath. Red River kind of, hopefully the team doesn't take a deep breath. They got to, gear up and get ready.
This is such a good building block. This is a great foundation for this year's team to win this game, play the way they did. Go back and watch film of the second half and say, you see how comfortable we are? You see how your blocks are leading to holes in the run game? See how Wisner, how patient you are, and you're allowing holes to open up, and you can create big runs like that. See how the wide receivers are creating space, and how the defense is just complementing each other, making plays, and doing all those types of things that creates winning football. That's what you can go back and rely on whenever you have a bit of a rough maybe a rough practice. Say, hey, let's turn on the Oklahoma film. Let's build the confidence up. Remember this feeling? Let's get this feeling back.
And you can sit there and go, look at that drive in the second half. I mean, they took up half the quarter in that drive. And that's part of the reason the Texas offense honestly didn't score more in the second half, was they chewed up nearly 14 minutes of the third quarter. It's a 15-minute quarter, folks. Yeah. And the way they did that was by not getting behind the chains, not getting penalties, not getting drive-altering negative plays. You can have a negative play in a drive and overcome it. What you can't have is a 10-yard penalty where it would have been 2nd and 3 instead it's 1st and 20. You can't have that. And they avoided those in the second half. Texas ended up with like 4 penalties for 31 yards. And how about this stat of the day? Padlock stat of the day, if you will, of why Texas won this game. Texas came into this game one of the worst third down offenses in all the country. OU came in as, I believe, the number 1 third down defense in the country. Texas was 9 of 16 on third downs, just about 57%.
Yeah. No, that will help you win games. And Oklahoma was 6 of 17. So Texas getting off the field on third downs.
Most of those conversions in the first half on the field goal drives as well.
Right. That ended in field goals for Oklahoma. But for Texas to, again, when you need 7 or 8 yards on third down, and for Arch Manning to lead the offensive line to hold up to get 10 yards is absolutely huge. I mean, it can just create so much more confidence, and it really extended a lot of these drives that we were seeing Texas failing to convert and continue in previous weeks. Even against the smaller teams, even against the San Jose States and the UTEPs, they weren't converting third and mid-range, third and long situations. This game, they did a much better job of doing that and extending these drives, even if they resorted in field goals or even, like you said, a punt. But then you convert a couple of first downs, and that helps you win the field possession game.
Yeah, especially when your defense is playing to their standard. And what one of my favorite plays in this game was, and you would never be able to guess it, so I'm not even going to have you try to guess it. It was a 3rd and 2, and Texas just did an inside zone. And Wisner, it was like his brain glitched for a second. He hesitated because there was so much room. Like he just wasn't used to the offensive line getting that big of a push. And they still converted it easily, even with Wisner kind of hesitating for a moment. But for the offensive line to move them off the ball like that for a 3rd and 2, that was one of my favorite plays of the game, because that is just something Texas has not done against good fronts ever. This year, and even at points last year and the year before. I mean, really, the whole Steve Sarkisian tenure, and that was one of my favorite plays, because if they don't get that, everyone's complaining at the play call because they ran it on 3rd and 2. when they haven't been a good red team. Instead, Sarkisian felt like the offensive line was finding a groove, and they were. And he gave them that opportunity on a 3rd and 2, and they only got it by about a yard. But it was one of my favorite plays of the game just because I saw the push up front, and I went, this offensive line still has a lot of problems. They still are not, they're not all of a sudden just a really good offensive line, but I think they can get better. They can, just like Arch, just keep getting better every week. And maybe this offense by the end of the year can be a pretty damn good offense, or at least a good offense.
Well, you talk about that, but also it didn't rely on Trey Wisner making a guy miss, breaking a tackle, and lunging forward to get 2 yards. He's able to just run for 2 yards, get 3, go down, and let's get back up, reset the chains, and get a new set of downs. It wasn't this like overly complicated, had to make a crazy, amazing play, had to make a guy miss in the backfield, lunge forward, nearly fumble, and dive forward just to get 2 yards out of a situation like that. It was the offensive line doing the work to allow the running back to make the play. And I think that's how this offense operated in the second half primarily, is that the offensive line really was able to dictate the game, whether that was Arch having time to throw, whether that was being able to run play action, whether that was allowing Trey Wisner to get 4 or 5 yards a pop, whatever that looked like. The offensive line in the second half dictated how this game played out.
Yeah, I mean, they probably deserve the game ball as a unit as far as the offensive game ball. The defense deserves the game ball as a full, but the offensive line deserves a very big hat tip for that second half, because they have been the worst unit on the football team through this point in the season, and they came out against a really good front, and they showed true, tangible improvement within a game and just from one week to the other. Now I feel like you have your 5 linemen. You're going to stick with this 5, and you're just going to. And now we kind of know what I think Sarkisian's figuring out what they do well. Their offensive game plan in the second half changed significantly from the first half, and also, you got to be able to run the ball well, because guess what OU did? And this was no surprise to me, and I think no surprise to people who kind of keep up with what schematically people try to do against Sarkisian, and especially this offense this year. They had 3 high safeties, 4 high safeties the whole game. And what did Texas not do? Stubbornly throw the ball deep just because Arch throws bombs.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think there was a deep pass this game.
No.
I think 15-yard routes.
Yeah,
there's a lot of intermediate passing and a lot of scramble passing.
Yeah, there was about 10 to 15-yard passes that if it did go for more than that, it was run after the catch.
Which they did a much better job of today as a just entire skill position.
As running backs, wide receivers broke a couple of tackles. I will say this much: I don't think I've ever seen Wingo break a tackle in my entire life as watching him as a Texas Longhorn. I'm not sure he has recorded a single broken tackle.
Not on a pass play. On a rush play, yeah. Whenever he gets the ball on a run, it feels like he breaks tackles. But
I don't know if I've seen him break. I don't think he's recorded a broken tackle. And so I do think that he and Manning felt like they were a little bit more on the same page today. Him and Moore.
They're getting there. They are very much getting there.
A little bit more on the same page just with the wide receiver group as a whole. He's obviously always kind of had that rapport with Livingstone. Livingstone, I thought, had a nice game today as well, on the few plays that he was able to make. But it just feels like Arch is taking command of this offense, and he's not pressing. The offense is just flowing the way it's supposed to flow. Not worried about stats, not worried about, highlight reel plays, not worried about trying to get 4 touchdowns and get every single wide receiver a touchdown in that game. It didn't really have that feel to it today.
Yeah, I mean, the number one key for this offense is just not shooting yourself in the foot. When they weren't, if they didn't, I mean,
the amount of back-to-back negative plays we saw today, that was blowing my mind. For as well as the offense was moving the ball, we would throw a screen, lose 5 yards, run the ball, lose another 2 yards. I'm like, okay, stacking these negative plays is really starting to aggravate me. And then it would be like 3rd and 15, they'd get 12 yards of it and set up a 4th and 3rd. And I'm like, I guess you kick a field goal here. And, they again, more times than not, Texas did the right thing today, whether that was from coaching staff, players' decisions, things like that. Texas outcoached Oklahoma by a mile today.
Yeah, I mean, that time management debacle at the end of the first half sealed that.
Yeah,
that was. I I was honestly astonished at how bad that was by Venables.
I was
I'm
laughing
still
hysterically.
shocked.
Yeah.
I'm still shocked
'Cause
just because
it changed everything about this game going into the second half.
Yeah, I almost felt like Texas probably felt a little, as a coach, you could spin that. You'd be like, that's disrespectful. They don't even think they need to try to score a touchdown to beat you. Like, because that's the vibe that gave off. They had 55 seconds left, the ball in Texas territory, and they were like, let's settle for about a 49-yard field goal.
And then they decide not to kick that field goal.
Then they're like, well, let's throw a Hail Mary into a really good defense and then kick a field goal.
Bizarre. Just a bizarre sequence.
That's as close as you can get to a single fireable offense within a game as you can get with that. I mean,
mentally handicapped decision from Venables and that entire sideline over there for Oklahoma. So, all right, Jake. Hey, anything else we want to talk about?
So Oklahoma sucks. That's one thing I forgot when making this prediction. You sit there and you go, look at the matchup, their defensive line against our offensive line. We haven't looked good this year. But it's important to always remember that Oklahoma sucks, and that will never change.
It is at the time of this recording, 6:50 p.m., and OU definitely, without a doubt, unequivocally, still sucks. With that being said, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. As always, ladies and gentlemen, that is Jake Jimerson. I am Tanner Carlson, and the biggest of all the hook'ems all year long. Hook 'em.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.